morning, everybody. I took a little vacation, but now that I'm back, I figured we'd do a real quick video, just talk a little bit about feeding goats and best practices, and to give you some visuals of my feeding situation, and you can maybe get some ideas. I will say, with my feeding situation, it only works with goats with no horns, and this was something that was a little foreign to me because I've never had goats with horns really, and then I started working with my girlfriend who has boar goats, and a lot of my ideas don't really translate to horned goats. So if you do have dairy goats or other type goats that you do have disbudded or don't have horns, these ideas will work. So, like, for example, in the summer I keep my minerals and baking soda right here along the fence as my goats come out of the milk room, and they put their head through and can eat. These troughs are great. I love these black troughs. You can get them pretty much anywhere, Tractor Supply, and they're about like $20 to $25 a piece. I do affix them with a zip tie because we all know how goats are. And but I do have a girlfriend who actually uses a small piece of PVC pipe right here that acts the same way. It keeps it from sliding up and down. But anyway, hi Raven. You gonna show everybody how to put your head through? She says, where's my food? There's nothing in there. But anyway, so that's a good fence line idea. So something just to remember real quick, the nature of goats and why it's important to provide clean feed. Goats in nature are browsers. They're not grazers. So they're not going to be naturally inclined to go out and crop grass close to the ground. That's not to say that they won't when they have to, but they would prefer to eat up off the ground. So when you're thinking about the nature of a goat and how to provide a feeding situation, always remember that they're going to want to eat clean feed. So we want to keep the feed up off the ground, and also eliminate as much the possibility that they can get their feet into the feed, or that they can turn their behind and poop onto the food, because they are goats and they're super talented at being able to get poop and feet everywhere. So this is the troughs system just hung here on a cattle panel. I do have to add a 2x4 onto the cattle panel just to help stabilize that feeder. I think you can see it there. And then it is affixed to the fence with some wire so they don't dump it off. This was just a kind of a box situation that works okay. Not the greatest, but it works. It's against a cattle panel here. It's inside my barn, so it's covered to keep it dry and clean. Some downfalls of this system is a lot of the fines and whatnot fall to the bottom of the box and fill it up, and you've got to clean it out. You can actually see what I've done is I put a board. It's kind of hard to tell, but there's a board under here at an angle so that it kind of props the hay towards the front at an angle. So if I were to do this feeder over, I would make it in a V shape towards the fence. But having them put their heads through is pretty good. There's still waste. I mean, they're goats. They're gonna waste. I think that's something people worry too much about, is that they're gonna waste. That's just the nature of the beast. And then I have these recently acquired these Seidel type hook over feeders. They're typically for shows, but I've actually been pretty pleased using it in this application. It's hooked over a cattle panel on the outside so that they can't get their feet on it, but it provides plenty of holes for them to reach through, and then they can also stick their heads through here to reach the feeder. And that was again why this won't work for horned goats, because once the horns it will work for small horned goats to go through a fence, but once the horns get bigger, they're not going to be able to reach the feeder. And then I just have another net, well, basket type. I actually built this one, this feeder. It's made with 4x4 cattle panel type material, and it's just zip tied onto that fence there. And we'll go take a look at a few other ideas. So this is in a different pen. This is where I graduate my kids. They come from inside the barn to this pen, and then right now it has a couple bucks in it. This is a good idea for small goats, to put your mineral feeders on the outside of the pen. And I really like these black 2-compartment feeders. You can get them at Tractor Supply also. Really like these. They're super cheap. They work great because what I typically do, we'll put the mineral and baking soda, and then it's already got the 2 compartments there for each thing. So let's look at the boys' feeding situation. So they have a shelter. It's just a basic 3-sided shelter. Shelter is really important for goats because they really can't tolerate getting wet and then chilled like cattle can. So now in this pen, if you notice, hopefully I can get in under the sun here, the bar that is there down low, that's there on purpose for them to stand like how they are. Those feeders are too tall for them to reach from the ground, but that bar is there on purpose to encourage them to stand up. This eliminates putting feet into the feeder. It also eliminates them being able to turn their butt to the feeder and poop in it. So, and what I've learned is to not fight the nature of the goat. Let's try to work with the nature of the goat. They want to stand up and eat stuff, so let's make it so they can. And it'll keep your feed cleaner. It also builds muscle. So if you have boar goats, this is actually a really good way to feed your wethers and your show goats, because it encourages them to stand up. And I mean, you can see he's pushing on those rear legs, he's tensioning the back. So having that bar there in this situation would be a good way to feed your boar goats that have the horns, because they can't put their heads through it. And you can do this in a shed row, along the barn wall, anywhere. You just have to add a little scrap of 2x4 there on the bottom. So then for their hay situation, same deal here. I made this feeder, a little bit of 3/4 inch scrap pipe and a regular 6x6 hog panel, and this feeder is probably about 36 inches long, so it's a little bit bigger. It covers this the majority of this wall of this shelter. Again, you know, it's high enough off the ground to where they can't get into the top. If you do have goats that want to jump into these feeders, you can easily strap some wire from the roof or from that top board over to keep them out, or to keep the hay in. These guys aren't too bad about wasting. But again, really good way to keep your feed. I also put the baking soda and minerals up in these troughs, so it's available all the time. Really important, especially for bucks, to keep baking soda and mineral available, as it really does affect the semen quality during breeding season. So yeah, just make sure that your goats have a dry shelter. It can be very simple, like this one. I mean, I built this. It's made of 2x6s, 4x4s, some 2x4s, a little bit of tin, and it's facing in a way because my prevailing winds come from the rear. And then in the summer, sometimes we turn it so that it's actually a little different, so that it provides more shade in the afternoon. We turn it so that it's horizontal this way, because it'll provide shade over here in the heat of the day. I am here in Central California where it gets pretty hot. So anyway, hopefully these ideas will help and explain a little bit why we feed our goats the way we do and why it's important. I don't know if I told you that. I mean, I said they're natural browsers, but it does serve a purpose to reduce exposure to parasites, and especially in young kids, We want to prevent coccidia contamination in our young kids that are growing. So just hope these ideas give you some ideas of simple ways you can improve your feeding situation. And I'll see you guys soon. If you like this video, please subscribe down below. And I'm going to work on some new ideas and topics coming up soon.